My name is Brenda Candiero, and today I'm at Hillcrest Farm just to take you through broiler management, a practical on broiler management. I'm sure you've been following us on all our Facebook trainings, and basically I've just been talking to you, but I thought today it could work out better and you could understand it more if I actually go onto the farm and try to demonstrate what we normally talk about. So today there's really nothing new that I'm going to talk about, but I just want you to have a closer look at the farm. So today I've got with me Mkoma Stephen, and he's just going to take us through in his house. He's the manager of this place, and we are going into his house. He's got about 8,000 broiler chicks that are 3 days today, and we will be talking about them. So as I start, I'm going to start on the housing structure before we get into the house, right? So this is our house, and this about 15,000 beds, but today there's just 8,000 of them. But the most important thing that I want to talk to you about is the structure. So the first thing that we have to consider is what we call housing orientation, the layout of your house when you are building it. So we recommend that you build your house on what we call an east-west orientation, and this is whereby the length of your house is going along the rising and the setting of the sun, right? The importance of doing that is because we want the sun to be always on top of the roof, because we do not want direct sunlight in the house. So I'll just take you closer here. As you can see, this is the length, right? All the way from there going down. These are the two lengths. And the first thing that you have to take into consideration is that you build it from down up about, it's up to here, half a meter. You build using brick, right? And from there all the way to the top, we are using mesh wire. And the width, I'm sure you see the width, the two widths, these now you can build with brick all the way to the roof. The reason why we are doing this is because we want at the end of our flock to allow maximum ventilation into our chicken house. So if we build with brick all the way, it's going to be very difficult to have good air coming in and bad air coming out. So you only build up to 50%. As you can see, this wall, you need to plaster it so that when you are washing and disinfecting, it becomes easier. So all the brick walls must be plastered with cement for easy cleaning, right? And then, as you can see, we use this mesh wire on the both long sides. And this mesh wire, we recommend that you use a 10 millimeter diameter of the mesh wire. We don't want it too big, because remember our biosecurity. We don't want birds to be flying in there. We don't want rats to be flying in here as well. I'm sure you can see here, there is a bait here for the rats. This is just a biosecurity measure that we take. Remember, rats and birds, they can cause salmonella, and we don't want them inside. Also, any predators that may come in, they can't go through this mesh wire. And I'm talking about wild cats, wild dogs. So you need to put this so that nothing gets into your chicken house, right? And on the roofing, we normally recommend that if you use the iron sheets, make sure that in the very hot conditions, maybe you can insulate them. You can either paint them white so that they are reflecting heat, or you can put thatch grass on top of them. So again, as I've said before, the orientation, the sun has to go along it, right, so that there's no direct sunlight. If, however, your house is on a south-north orientation, then you have to put an overlap like this, so that again you are blocking direct sunlight into the chicken house. So this is the house orientation that we expect to see, and your housing must be very strong, also just that it will not fall even under harsh conditions. Okay, so now we are inside this fowl run, and in here we've got 8,000 broiler chicks, and today they are on their 3rd day. So as you can see, they are still using these chick trays and these chick phones as they are still small. And as you can see where I'm standing on, there's a khaki paper, and the purpose of this paper is for us to be able to put extra feed so that we increase the feeding space for our birds. So the idea is for every bird, wherever it turns, it has to come across some feed. And I also want you to have a look at our bedding. So what we are using here is what is actually very ideal. These are wood shavings. There's so many people who confuse wood shavings and sawdust, but I just want you to have a closer look at these wood shavings. This is what you get when carpenters are planing their planks. So these are very good because they absorb the moisture, and they are also very comfortable. And the depth, it has to be very deep. If you can see, as I'm digging here, it's actually very deep. You can see almost 10 centimeter deep, right? And this is for the comfort one for the chicks, as well as to maintain the temperatures. Remember, most of the cold is coming from the floor, so we are insulating the floor so that our birds are comfortable. And I'm sure I've taught you before a way of trying to see whether the chickens or your birds are feeling cold or they're feeling warm. So what you do is you just take a chick, and then you can put the feet against your cheek or against your neck. If you feel cold, then it means the chicks are cold. And as I can feel right now, this chick is actually feeling very warm and very comfortable. And thanks to this very good and dry bedding. And this is where they come to drink their water. And we've seen often that when they are drinking, sometimes they spill, or when we are feeling these, sometimes they spill. So you just need to go around, and if there are any wet patches, you are actually removing them so that your bedding remains dry. So you just remove the wet patch, you take it away, you can replace it. And you will know that as these chicks grow older, we will slightly increase the height of both the feeder and the drinker, because we will adjust it accordingly, because we always want our chicks to feel very comfortable when they are drinking or when they are eating. As you can see, they must be standing on their feet. They mustn't go too low or too high to try and reach the water or the feed. And this khaki paper, as you can see now, it's getting wet and bad. So on the 3rd day, we must remove it and remove it from the chicken house. So its purpose is only for the first 3 days, where we are encouraging. And you will notice that when the birds are actually eating from the paper, it makes a sound that will attract the chicks, and so they will want to come and eat more feed. But after 3 days, now they have learned that feed can be found from the feeders, and they will go to the feeders. So feeding space and drinking space is also very important. We want to try as much as we can to minimize pressure on drinkers and on feeders. So as you can see, these chick phones and these feeders, the ratio that we recommend is that for every one drinker, there are 50 chicks to drink from there, and as well for the feeder as well. So one feeder is for 50 chicks, one drinker is for 50 chicks. So just make sure that you maintain that ratio correctly so that there's no bullying. Remember that other chicks can actually bully some who are not as strong. So in order to avoid that, we really have to make sure that our feeding space and our drinking space is equal to the number of the beds that we have in here. Okay, so when it comes to the temperature of the house, the most important thing that we need to look at is what we call chick behavior, right? So when you look at the distribution of the chicks, it must tell you whether the chicks are feeling cold or whether they're feeling warm. If chicks are feeling cold, they all go to one corner or under the brooder where they cuddle and they lie under the brooder because they're trying to warm themselves. If you see such behavior, it means that your heat distribution in the chicken house is not fairly distributed. And when chicks are warm or they are hot, you see them panting. And remember, when chicks are panting, they lose water and they don't gain any weight. So number one, before you even use these thermometers, the first thing that you have to look at is the chick behavior. How are your chicks behaving? And even without a temperature, you can actually tell whether the chicks are okay or are not. Right, so what we have in here is a thermometer, and this is a maximum and minimum thermometer. The beauty of this thermometer is that it tells you the minimum ever reached, the temperature ever reached, and also the maximum, and then the actual at your time of recording. So here I can actually tell that it went up all the way to 32 at some point, and at some point it went down to 26. So that's a fluctuation that you already know that happened whilst you were not there, right? So, and at day 3, we are expecting the temperature to be around 29 degrees Celsius in the brooder. And this is actually very correct because it's reading 29. Another mistake that I've seen people making is that they have their thermometers hung up like this when chicks are down there. The correct level to place our thermometers is what we call at chick level. Because remember, we want to know what the temperature is like where the chicks are. If we put our thermometer here, we are taking temperature up here and yet the chicks are there. So make sure all your as you can see, they've lined up all these thermometers down at chick level, and this will ensure that they are taking and recording the correct temperature. And so just for me to check against their temperature, I also got my portable one that I move around with, and I can also just verify. Right, okay, so mine is 30, but it's because my laser is just under the brooder. But if I come here, it's 29.5. So this is just to verify that the temperatures that they're recording and what I've recorded is also correct. So we always want you to take note of the temperature all the time, and you can actually plot a graph against your so that when something happens in the following days, you can relate it back to the temperature fluctuations. Normally, we do not recommend any fluctuation that is above 2 degrees. So from 29, it can go up to 31, but not to 33. That will be too much, and it cannot go lower than 26 or 25. So this is just to maintain the temperature almost in the same range. What happens to the birds is when there's so much temperature fluctuations, this is where you begin to see pested vents. I will show you one when I come across it. This is when the chick has got a closed bag and it can't really let out the droppings well because the vent is pested. And this normally is a sign of dehydration caused by fluctuations in temperatures. Whilst she's still there on trying to warm up, so remember now we are in summer and our brooding is about 2 weeks, so which is 14 days from placement. So we are still brooding these chicks. And so many people have asked, what if I just put them on the sun? The purpose of brooding, remember, for our roadrunner or our indigenous chickens, whenever they've got their little ones, they sit on them to try and warm them up. But because these 8,000 birds don't have a mother anymore, we need to make sure that we are providing them with the heat that they need. And the heat will help them to grow so that we can get the targets we want. So here, the system that we are using at this farm, we call these charcoal burners, or we call them Mbaura in Shona. And these use charcoal, right? And an ideal one that we would really recommend is whereby they put charcoal in here and then they put a chimney which goes out so that smoke doesn't build up. But as you can see, so I presume what these guys are doing is that they light them up outside and then they can bring them inside when there's no smoke coming out, or else they will use a better charcoal that doesn't really smoke, because smoke particles are not good for the respiratory of the young chickens. So the correct height for this Mbaura is about 90 centimeters or so from the ground. The higher the higher, the better. If we put it too close, we've got the risk of maybe burning the chicks, and even remember, these are wood shavings and they can catch fire. But if we leave space there, then it is actually very safe for our chicken house. Okay, so now we need to talk about lighting, which is also another important factor, especially at this age. So there's so many people who confuse a lighting source and a heating source when they are using infrared lamps. So remember, the infrared lamps which are not here, they are using the charcoal burners for heating. They're those infrared lamps that are for giving heat or warmth to our chickens. So that's not for lighting, in as much as they can also give a little bit of light, but that light cannot be used with the chicks to see where they're going to see their feed. So we actually recommend that you have as many as you can, these light bulbs that are very bright. And we normally say, when you get into the chicken house, you must be able to read a newspaper, and that can show you that that's the correct light intensity that you are providing. The importance of light first is for me or the houseman. For when he gets into the chicken house, he needs to see where he's going so that he doesn't step onto the chicks, and also he can actually see from afar that there is trouble there and he can run there. And it's also mainly for the chickens. We need them to see, to locate where the feeders are, where the drinkers are, and they need to have a very good lighting in their house. So light is also very important, and you must provide as much as you can so that the chickens can actually see. I just want to show you so curtain management. And curtain management talks directly to ventilation. Remember, we need to have adequate ventilation inside our chicken house, right? Remember, these little chicks, they breathe in oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide. So we need to make sure that in as much as we are trying to contain the warmth, but we also need to let the bad gases out. And I'm talking about carbon dioxide, I'm talking about ammonia, I'm talking about carbon monoxide from the charcoal burners, right? All these bad gases, they need to go out, and we need to allow oxygen to come in. So curtain management is when you are managing these curtains, right? You are managing them so that if it's too cold, you raise them up, right? And I'm just going to show you the correct way of doing it. So when it's hot, we lower them like this. So it depends. You will be looking at the chick behavior, and you also look at your thermometers. If you feel that it's getting too hot, you continue to lower them. And as you can see, there are these hooks, and you can actually hook them lower and lower, right? If you feel that the temperatures are now getting lower, you just come and you actually raise them up. So you hook them up like this, and you can hook them all the way, and you just leave a gap of about 15 or so centimeters to allow fresh air to get in. So the mistake that we have seen people doing is that for their curtain management, instead of lowering them down, up and down, they actually do it from here. So they put them up like this. And when you do that, you are allowing draft to come in. Draft is that air that then comes and it dilutes all the warmth that you've been trying to maintain. So the correct way is to move them up and down. And as you can see in this house, we've got what we call double curtaining. This will now allow to maintain the temperatures when the environment temperature has gone too low. So for example, let's say at night when the environment temperatures go down, they will then raise these two curtains. You can see there's one inside and there's another one that is outside, and they can use both curtains, and if sometimes they can choose to lower one depending on the situation in their inside. So ventilation again is also another important. You need to know that ammonia accumulation, this is one gas that can affect the growth of your chicken, and when it accumulates, number one, it smells bad. Number two, it starts to cause harm to the eyes and also to the respiratory. So if you have ever got into your house and you hear a sneaking sound like krr, krr, in your chicken house, sometimes it's because so many gases have built up and now you have trapped them in, and they are actually affecting the respiratory system of your birds. So ventilation is also very important, and if we don't get it right, it's going to affect the growth rate of our birds. If we go back a little bit to our feeding stages, remember on ProFeeds there are two ways of feeding. The first one is what you call straight feeding. This is where you buy pelleted or crumbled feed and you go straight and feed your chickens. There are no additions. Or you can choose to go the concentrate way if you've got the maize and you buy the concentrates and then you mix with the maize. So at this farm, they are using straight feeds. And remember that from day 1 to day 14, that's the starter phase where you use starter crumbles. And so to day 3, they are still using starter crumbles. So, here we've got a sample of our starter. So this is a 21% protein, and it is very nutritious. Starter is meant to give that growth that we're looking for in our chickens, and it also helps to develop the organs and the systems of the bird. I need you to take note that if your birds don't eat this feed very well, then when you go on to feed them grower and finisher, they will not do as much because they would have missed the important nutrients that are provided. So make sure that your brooder conditions are actually encouraging the chickens to eat this feed, as this is what they need for a better growth rate in the future. So from day 14 to day 21, we move to our grower crumbles, right? This is now a grower phase, which is 19% protein. And from 21 to 28 days, again, we move to grower pellets. But then now, these are pellets and bigger than the grower crumbles. And from day 28 until slaughter, some slaughter at 5 or 5.5 weeks, we now move to the finisher pellets. But like in this case, I can see that the birds, as you can see, all the feeders, they are occupied. And this is what we need to see. When we get into a chicken house, some chickens must be eating. Also remember that there is also important, it is also very important to rest your birds, right? So we don't want you to be feeding them 24 hours a day for 5 weeks. You need also to give them a rest so that they can rest and digest that feed. So there are dark hours that we always recommend, and these can differ depending on your situation. But the most important thing is that your birds must get some time to rest so that they don't overgrow. Remember, when birds overgrow, we run into problems of flip overs because now the inside organs cannot sustain the bigger body. So do not overfeed so that your birds don't overgrow. And then when it comes to our water, we call it the first drink, which is for about 5 to 7 days, the first drink. And we recommend that you put a stress pack or a stress mix. This is just a mixture of minerals and vitamins that will help the birds and relieve the stress. Remember, they came here 3 days ago. They're still learning this environment, and the transportation from wherever they came from, we need to relieve them of that stress. Stress will cause the chickens to eat less. So we need to encourage them to eat, and so we put a stress mix to relieve them so that they can start eating. So make sure that the water has a stress mix stress mix for the first 7 days. So when we talk about water, we always talk about number one, availability of water. So water must always be there. So I'm sure you can see those ladies as they are moving around, they're actually checking to see if there is a drinker that needs topping up, and they will be topping up. The same goes with the feed, right? So water has to be available. And we also talk more importantly about the quality of water. And I always tell you that if you get into your chicken house and you can't drink this water, it means that the water is not fit for the chickens. So you must be able to drink it. So we're talking about the quality of water. Remember, water can actually harbor so many bacteria and agents that can cause diseases. So keep your water clean and make it available for better growth. Okay, so just for you also, just to make sure that the chicks are eating, you can also do what we call a crop feel test, whereby you physically touch and feel the crop to tell whether the chick has been eating or drinking or doing both. So there is what we call a feed crop. This is whereby you touch the crop and it's feeling so hard and there is no water in there. This means that this chick has just been eating feed and it has not gone for a drink, right? And then sometimes you can have a soft, very soft crop, and this is a water crop. You can actually feel there is no feed in it, it's just water, and it means that this chick has been just drinking and it has not gone for any food, right? Sometimes you can go around and sometimes the crop is actually very empty and you can tell that there is neither feed nor water inside. And so what you just need to do is you can do a ratio and you can tell whether most chicks are just drinking. So probably on a very hot day, you are likely to find many of them with water because they are feeling hot and they are constantly going to drink. So you just need to adjust your temperatures, to adjust your ventilation. A nice feel of the crop is whereby it's soft, it's porridge-like feel. And this is where we've got feed and water both available in the crop. And the crop test, you can do it during the first 3 days or so, and you can actually tell. And if you find empty crops, you need to either increase the feeding space and make sure that the feeders are available, as well as that the water is reachable to the chicks.